Call the Monday, February 26, 2024 regular meeting of the Jersey Shore Area School District Board of Directors. Could I have a roll call, please, Mr. Enders?
Mr. Allen. Mr. Brungard.
Here.
Mrs. Calhoun.
Here.
Miss Edwards.
Here.
Mr. McDonald.
Here.
Mrs. Peters.
Here.
Mr. Furman.
Here.
Mrs. Thomas.
Here.
Mrs. Stemler.
Here.
8 members present, 1 absent.
Next, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Spectalia, could you please come and introduce?
No.
I'd like to introduce our 2 8th graders, Ava Smith and Bella Hensler, to lead the pledge. These young ladies were chosen to lead the pledge because they, on their own, took it upon themselves to come and make an appointment with me and Bill Mincer to present about adding a new sport to the high school that they'd like to see for next year. So I was impressed by their leadership. Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agree. All right, next we will have approval of the minutes. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Next is the treasurer's report. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Next is approval of the bills. May I have a motion, please? Motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns?
Bills, for the most part, are pretty normal this month. Do want to note that the couple voided checks on there, those checks were all lost in the mail, had to be voided, reissued. The $35 fee for the scholarship fund was a stop payment fee that was refunded by the bank. We do not pay those fees, unfortunately, though the bank has to charge them, and then they give us the money back. On the general fund bills, Reviewing them, there was a $55,000 purchase for computers from CDWG that was grant funded. And also within the bills was both December's and January's tuition payment to Sugar Valley Rural Charter School of $231,327.52. Outside of that, they were pretty normal for the month.
Thank you, Mr. Enders. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Okay, motion passes. Moving on to communications, Dr. Ozenbach.
I just have one thing under communications. I did want to take a minute to publicly thank two Good Samaritans. Mr. James Seagraves and Ms. Christy McCloskey assisted at the scene of a school bus mechanical malfunction on February 12th. These caring individuals saw the school bus and its occupants in need and put the safety of our students and the bus driver before themselves. Thank you again to Mr. Seagraves and Ms. McCloskey for your selfless acts of service. There is also a GoFundMe page set up for Mr. Seagraves. I would also like to thank the bus driver who made sure that all of the students got off the bus and were safe, the driver that helped transfer the students to her bus to continue to the schools, one of our principals, Mr. Keith Valdus, who also stopped and stayed at the scene, Officer Kyle Farah, our school resource officer, and all of the other first responders. Community heroes like these help our students and staff in ways that make me a very proud member of the Bulldog Nation. And I just wanted to thank everybody involved.
Thank you, Dr. Ozenbach. Under the President's report, just wanted to report that we had an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to go over legal and personnel. Next is the intermediate report. Jesse.
I'd like to yield my time.
Okay. We will move on to the student representative report. Kate.
I have quite a bit, so just bear with me.
Not a problem.
In the band side of the music department, they had 11 students participate in the Lycoming County Band Directors Association Senior High Honors Band Festival at Montoursville. 2 students auditioned and were accepted to the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association District 8 Modern Band Festival at Shamokin. 2 students auditioned and were accepted to the PMEA District 8 Band Festival in Troy. One student auditioned and was accepted to the PMEA Region 4 Band Festival in Owensdale. 2 students auditioned and were accepted to the PMEA District 8 Jazz Festival at Central Columbia. The Indoor Color Guard finished in first place out of 5 competing groups at the Tournament Indoor Association or Preview Show in Bellefonte. Jazz Band is participating in the Williamsport City Jazz Orchestra Jazz Festival at Lycoming College. Indoor Color Guard and Jazz Band will be traveling to Wildwood, New Jersey in early May to participate in the Tournament Indoor Association Atlantic Coast Championships. The Spring Concert Band / Concert Choir concert will be held on Thursday, May 16th at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. The annual Instrumental Pops concert will be held on Thursday, May 30th at 7 p.m. in the high school cafeteria, featuring the newly reformed middle school jazz band. In FBLA, they had 2 community fundraisers to raise money for the Latimers. Between breakfast wraps, partnered with the Shore Diner, and Flamingo Flocking, FBLA was able to present them with a check for $700. 19 students will be representing Jersey Shore FBLA at the state competition in April at the Hershey Lodge and Convention Center. Thursday, February 15th was Send the Elementary Students Home with some cheers and signs from FBLA members. Students from the high school went down to the elementary school as the students were going home. They were greeted and met with motivational signs and cheers to have an amazing weekend. In sports, girls basketball is the PHAC Division I champions and are the 3rd seed in districts for girls basketball.
Spencer Bryan broke the boys' school record for three-pointers in a game. Girls wrestling picked up their first dual meet wins against Wellsboro and Mifflinburg. The swim team competes at districts February 28th and 29th at Williamsport. On January 30th, the Red Cross Club hosted a blood drive. There were 40 potential donors with 35 pints of blood collected, exceeding the 32-pint goal set by the American Red Cross. The high school has collected a total of 70 pints this year. The last drive of the year is May 1st. In National English Honor Society, the students so far this year have helped at the Love Center, hosted a Toys for Tots book drive that resulted in over 700 books being donated to support literacy in our community, and participated in the Renaissance Club trick-or-treat event at JSASD. We are currently planning our Read Across America events where we support the 3 elementary schools with learning activities, Dr. Seuss festivities, and our love of literature. In National Honor Society, the students have been helping the community at the Love Center on numerous occasions, and we participated in the Renaissance Club's trick-or-treat event at JSC. We are currently gearing up for our next community service event that has yet to be chosen by the incoming members. In Skills USA, Ariana Miller placed first in early childhood education. Maggie Johnson placed second in extemporaneous speaking. Cole Satterfield, Gideon Dapp, and Caden Kimball placed second in welding fabrications. Marissa Franz placed third in prepared speech. Emma Furman placed third in job skill demonstration. Sophie Willits placed third in job interview. Carlos Geiswhite placed third in information technology services. And Brody Toner placed third in firefighting. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Okay, now we will move on to the superintendent's report.
I would like to introduce Mr. Valdus to present the middle school budget.
All right. Good evening, board. And thank you for sharing all the things that the high school's doing. I think we can talk about budget, but I think it's more important to hear. It's important to hear what's happening at the high school, as this is what goes into producing. Our students are doing great things. So at the middle school, as we prepare students for the high school, there are a number of things going on. And so in this presentation, I'll go over our 3 goals that are building upon last year. So this will be quick, and then highlight some big ticket items that are in the middle school budget, and then changes from last year to this year. So our goals for the middle school that follow the district goals that were set by the admin team is to use multiple measures of data. So up there you'll see PSSA's, PVOS, iReady, which produces the data or the information we need to help build our students and meet their needs by interventions in different programs. We measure this by it says MTSS, multi-tier systems of supports. So we meet every other week to talk about our students, how we can help stretch those that are achieving at a high level, how we can help intervene for those that may be struggling. And so that is ongoing, and I believe tonight you'll hear about things like iReady, and this speaks to the importance of that. Goal 2 is building upon the Bulldog Nation. And at the middle school last year, we adopted Habits of a Bulldog Nation. It was professional development by our teachers that led and pushed this. Here it says that it will complement the ROC program, and I'm going to speak to that a little bit in about 2 slides, a little bit more. But this is a way for us to help our students see that they're a part of something bigger, that their habits help produce their character and build kind of them into the citizens we are hoping for. And then we also use our students to speak to our incentives and our school-wide initiatives. We want their voice heard, and it comes through this goal as well. The third goal, you'll see some things come up in our budget about this. The third goal for the last 2 years has been to pursue a complete course offering, and that leads into our CTE program, its introduction to some of those. Last year we were able to bring back family consumer science. Tech Ed is back, and this year we've increased some health and STEM offerings. At 8th grade, we were able to bring back an Intro to Spanish class, and so It's an introduction to languages for our 8th grade students so they have an idea or a taste of what is coming at the high school. And I think that's been going well. And so that is a goal that we've been working toward. Some of our initiatives and professional development plans, I highlighted 2. The first, I think, is one that we are really concentrating on district-wide, and it's our math professional development. Our data speaks to that. We have a need to continue to push there. And so there's been some curriculum review and development that's been supported by the intermediate unit. Ethan Lee is a new hire there, and he's been really helping us. Mr. Armbruster and I were able to speak at the PDE's SAS Institute. We were selected to present, actually on the initiative listed there, Habits of a Bulldog Nation. But when we were at the SAS Institute, I attended a session with Ethan Lee, and we were able to, on math at the middle school level, and we've been able to connect with another district, Cocalico, which is south of here. But they have a math coach, and so our teachers have been collaborating with those teachers. It's been a really great initiative. So that's been a plan we've been doing and continue to work on. And then Habits of a Bulldog Nation, you hear that. Our students hear it all the time. Ultimately, we say at the middle school, be at your best, make people around you better. They'll hear me say your behaviors create your habits create your character and your reputation. And middle school is a time where kids do that a lot. And so we want to help encourage them to do that in positive ways. And so we continue to push that. And the one thing I want to touch on is we use ROC as the acronym for school-wide. Our initiative this year is to kind of phase the acronym out and just be like Habits of a Bulldog Nation, bring in that Bulldog Nation theme. And so we used to host a ROC breakfast. We're now holding a Bulldog breakfast. A ROC event is now a Bulldog bash. So we're just sort of changing the language there and emphasizing the habits. So moving on from there, big ticket items, things that you'll see as you go through the budget. Last year we added, well this current year, we added the $3,000 for classroom furniture upgrades. If you walk through the middle school, there are a lot of dated items. And so gradually we are trying to help replace and update some of the things that have been around for a very long time. And so we're doing that gradually, and so there's $3,000 for that. ELA is English Language Arts. Their main curriculum resource, their curriculum's the standards, the resource we utilize is Springboard. It's a consumable, so that is purchased every year. Math PD, I'm going to touch on as we get through the differences from year to year, but I've spoken about the initiative. And then FCS supplies, Family Consumer Science and Tech Ed, those supplies are consumables. We cook, and so they cook, they get used, we have to buy more. That's the big thing with FCS. And then Tech Ed, there's 3D printers, there's different things in Tech Ed, wiring, and different things that are consumables, so they have a price tag. The other big ticket items you'll see, when you look through the function items, 3210 is school-sponsored activities. At the middle school, that's essentially our music program. And similar to our building, there are a lot of instruments that are older, and so they need repairs. Last year, we increased that to 2,000. We are using it all, and there are instruments that need repairs, and so that's a price tag that comes with repairing dated instruments. And then in some of that, in our meetings talking about this, there's also some bigger instruments that haven't been replaced. So the timpani, I think I'm saying that right, are those big drums. Apparently they're very old, and they're not tuning, they're not holding tune, and so those are an instrument kind of on the process that we need to update, as well as an upright piano for our chorus, and one that can kind of, it's digital, so it can go between, and so those 2 items are larger, which is why you see a bigger price tag there. All right, so moving on, the format on the screen is not great, so I hope all my lines are there. Otherwise, I might need to take someone's printed copy. But 1100 I'll just go through, these are changes from one year to the other, and so,
Absolutely.
these change just from one year to the other. So 1100, 430, repair and maintenance. The change there is we don't service our microscopes every year. We do it every other. So it comes on and off as the year goes. So this is the year we need to have our microscopes repaired and serviced. So that increases. 1100, 610. This is all of regular ed at the middle school. So this would be all of our departments, regular ed supplies, whether they're classroom supplies, whatever it may be. Overall, our budget is decreasing in this area by $4,000 roughly. One of the big items there is this past year we did purchase new appliances for our family consumer science room. We had to buy some dishwashers and microwaves, and so we don't need to do that. So I think 3,000 came out of just that one line. And then tech ed supplies, as the program's been developed, some of the bigger items, we don't need to replace those. Now it's consumables. So overall, those line, that function went down $4,000. 1100, 610 is textbooks. And I think you heard about this at the elementary. You know, it ebb and flows, so we're not doing an FCS curriculum this year. That was approved and purchased last year. But we are adding some art curriculum. Elementary presented about that at the last board meeting. As a district, they're purchasing it, and so it's being split between buildings, which I think is great. And by the way, shout out to Mike Harvey, a new art teacher at the middle school. He is really like upping that program, and this is going to continue with that. 1200, 610, which people looking at the screen can't see, is special education general supplies. That has stayed the same with the exception of the life skills room needed new appliances as well. They were over 20 years old, and so we purchased those last year, this current year, and so the budget came down $3,000. We don't need to purchase those again. And then,
Can I interject
yeah.
there? If you remember last year going to this budget presentation, we discussed about those appliances, and about applying for a grant. That grant was applied for and we were awarded it. So the appliances were purchased January with the grant funds from West Company.
Oh yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so we didn't have to even use those funds. That's a win. All right, 1200, 640 is textbooks. This is, you'll see an increase by roughly $1,000. The math textbooks that our life skills class is using, I sent this, I think they were printed in maybe right around 2000. So they're just dated, and this is the updated teacher version that they're using. So we are looking to just update, it's the exact same text, it's just updated instructional practices and strategies. So that's the change for 1200, 640. There we go. The other changes you'll see, I touched on this. It's a larger price tag. The instructional staff professional development, going along with our math PD initiative, our math teachers at the middle school have requested to attend a conference or get additional professional development. We budgeted for the highest end of like the national conference. We don't believe anyone's going to that, but that's what we're budgeting for, and then we think it will be lower, but our goal is to have some of our math teachers attend some professional development, and so we went for the high end, and hopefully it will just come down from there. Health services, $70 more, that's just an increase in cost. The next two items you'll see, 3210, 513, and 580. They go in tandem. Actually, we'll go back to our student representative talk about the PMEA and the students that are getting invited into presenting and going to these. It's growing, and so as that grows and as we desire that to grow and give these opportunities to our students, it comes with transporting them and then the registration fees. So our goal is to have students attend PMEA's Jazz Fest next year. and the Lycoming County Band Fest, and so that would come with transportation and registration. The last two items, again, I touched on them already, is our music program supplies. The 610, through budget analysis and looking at trying to reduce that negative 4,000, some of that is coming from the library, the music library. Instead of spending more money on library, redoing some pieces, and just some other things, just trying to cut some costs there. But then shifting some of those funds to the new instruments. So we took some money from the general supplies, and we want to shift that to the new instruments to help offset the cost of those two instruments that I've already spoke about. But that's the changes from year to year, from the two, from the budget from last year to this year. Overall, with all of that, there is an increase to the middle school budget by just under $3,000. So we're trying new initiatives. We are analyzing some things with the budget, but that's currently where we are projected. Do you have any questions for me? Excellent. All right. Can I turn it over to Chad, or do you want me? All right.
Thank you.
There we go.
Good evening, board. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Chad. Before I actually get started with my budget presentation, I just wanted to say one thing. What an honor it is to actually be standing at the podium to do my budget presentation. I graduated from Jersey Shore. I interned at Jersey Shore during my college years, and now I get to stand in front of you and actually make a difference in the department, and make it a better place, hopefully. So now that the touchy stuff's out of the way, we'll get on with the budget. So I'm going to follow pretty much the same layout. We'll give you my goals, the direction we are looking to take the department, and kind of the overview of the bigger items, the changes that you'll see in the budget in the coming year. So the first one is replacement of the remaining interactive whiteboards in some of the itinerant spaces, the learning support instruction rooms, and possible creation of some flexible learning spaces. So in last year's budget, it was proposed for the final replacement of the interactive whiteboards. In that final replacement, a couple of the itinerant rooms were missed. So art rooms, music rooms, things like that. So the goal in replacing those boards across buildings, so that if it's moving from one space to another, they're not shifting back and forth between technologies, that it'll be a smooth transition for the students as they're moving from room to room, and more or less just kind of bringing all of those rooms up to be updated technological equipment. The second one is upgrade and improving of the aging gymnasium sound systems. So this year we actually did the sound system in the auditorium at the high school. That project is done. It came through beautifully. That sound system is really amazing now for our plays and for all of the things that they're going to do in that auditorium. So now we're going to start looking at the other alternative spaces. So the gymnasium is the next logical step. So for sporting events, for facility use events, things like that, to bring those sound systems up to date, create some new connections so that, if they want to play music over the speakers, it just makes it a little bit easier. Upgrading the microphones, upgrading speakers if need be, just an overall look and improvement on those spaces. The next one is review current software subscriptions district-wide. So this is definitely a process that we are going to do yearly, to take a look at all of the things that we're using throughout the district and to make sure that they're still relevant, to make sure that they're fueling our curriculum, to make sure that they're actually beneficial, to make sure that we're getting the most and providing the best to our students. I would like to look at exploring an LMS at the elementary school level. So as of right now, we're using Schoology 6 to 12 as a learning management system. So they're submitting all of their work digitally off of their iPads, doing things like that, and they do make kind of the same environment for elementary school students. Obviously, it's a little watered down. It's easier for them to understand, easier for them to use. But in doing that, it essentially prepares them moving forward. So by the time that they actually get to the middle school level, they are prepared. They're more comfortable using their devices, doing things digitally, and it should cut down on paper costs as well, because they'll actually be able to submit things digitally, save the district some money that way. And then we're going to continue to provide exemplary support to our staff and students, which, let's face it, is why we're here. So we definitely want to keep doing that and make sure that everybody's taken care of. So in regular instruction and technology services, the major changes that you're going to see is Atomic Learning is no longer in there. That software was used for professional development, and it really wasn't being used all that heavily. So we've decided to not renew that. Already working on that subscription stuff, so we're doing good. And then, as you can see, Comply pretty much takes up that cost. So there's not really a cost difference, but there is a line item change for that. Comply is being used as a central storage unit for documents across the district administratively. Currently, it's being used primarily to track clearances and things like that, but we're also branching out. They're using it for print requesting, and we're pursuing digitizing more of our district documents so that they can be submitted electronically, and alert groups and approval chains and things like that can be done digitally. So that is coming as well. In regular instruction and technology services, you'll see the addition of the line item for iReady, which is a benchmarking program that we're currently using K to 8 and dabbling in at 9 to 12. That's being used for benchmarks and it's also being used for learning loss. iReady is actually a pretty cool program that once the student actually benchmarks themselves, the program itself will actually take it into the process and kind of point out things that they need a little bit more assistance with. It continues to kind of plan a path for that student so that they can build on skills that they tested weekend, and it can support those skills that they've shown mastery of, but they want to continue to build upon those skills.
Chad, was this funded by grant money before?
It was, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was funded by grant money.
So we've been using it a couple of years, I believe.
Yes, yeah, we had a 3-year license, and this is the first year that will actually be a budget line item for us.
Chad, is this a yearly thing, or is it another 3-year for that cost?
This is a single year agreement.
$80,000 for a single year.
For a single year.
Chad, can I back up a minute to a page?
Sure.
The document software, whatever, is that, I know years ago we put the student data on a digital system somehow. Is that related to this?
No, this is purely for staff. So this is, so obviously all of our staff have their clearances. We do conferences, we do Act 48 hours, things like that. This software is meant to track that.
So the student data is still being stored, rather than
Focus,
papers,
yes.
being stored
Yep.
within the district?
Our student information system is called Focus. Yep, all of that is housed in there.
Okay.
Okay. And then the other line item that you're going to see in 22348 is Navigate 360, which is a centralized management for emergency responders. Currently, that we have binders that we maintain. This essentially will digitize those binders and allow universal access to those documents in the event of an emergency or any other time that they're needed. And it'll cut down on the printing. It'll allow us to distribute it much faster if the need for that is there. Hopefully, we never need it, but on the off chance that we do, it'll make it a much more efficient process.
Mr. Crape, can I add to that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
It also will allow first responders to have access. to our emergency plans. Not only that, but they're able to, if we know there's a threat somewhere in the building, there's maps on there that they can digitally access through phones or computers so that they can have a better view of what's going on before they even enter. And there are other school districts in the area that are utilizing this tool, and they find it very beneficial.
Absolutely, thank you. So for additional equipment in the 22-20 section, as you can see, our phone system was replaced this year, which went very well. So that line item is being zeroed out. With that, to reappropriate those funds, that's where it's going to go into the Promethean boards so that we can supply more interactive whiteboards to the classrooms and the gymnasium sound systems. So we're essentially, we're essentially just splitting that more or less in half, dividing it amongst two upcoming projects. And then as you can see, we're zeroing out vape sensors. Those are going to be grant funded in the upcoming year. Going to be the big ticket items. Does anybody?
I just have to write down my note real quick. First, I really liked your little gushy introduction. I feel the same way about our area.
Yeah.
The other is, real quick, the sound system. Is it the sound system that I was used to when I went to school here? Like, is it that dated?
There have been minor upgrades done to maintain it.
Okay.
But at this point, obviously we're gonna have a sound expert come in and make recommendations for that.
Okay.
But some of the wiring is a little
Right.
fixed. So I mean,
Right, yeah.
Wire ages.
You need to replace
it gets
it.
nicks in it, things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So yeah, obviously we would want somebody to come in and give recommendations as to how they feel it should be done. And then we would work off of that. But yeah, parts of it I'm sure.
No, yeah.
are the same, yeah.
I really have a lot of questions about the sound system. Is this the sound system in, where's the sound system at? I wrote it down. The one that the high school is done in the auditorium.
The auditorium sound system is completed, yes.
So now you want to look at the gymnasium.
Yes, correct.
And that would mean we could have dances in the gymnasium, correct? Better. It's more lighting, I think they don't really like.
I would say after the project is done, the sound system would be supportive.
Okay,
Whether or
yeah.
not you actually house dances in the high school is.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, that's
Okay.
usually one of the complaints is the sound system. Do we have a sound system going outside the school? Like outside?
Exterior speakers?
Yes.
They exist, and I will say, so those speakers exist on the outsides of the buildings. I want to say probably 90% of them have been disconnected just because making announcements and it broadcasting outside the building is probably not best security practice to pull names. So come to the office.
Right.
So for the ones that are still live, we'll probably alter, but yeah.
Okay.
But they do exist, yeah, if we should need to do it.
Okay. And the other thing is, I buy and sell antiques, and sound systems are one of the best priced items that you can sell. So I didn't know if that was something that, if you're going to get rid of equipment, if you've ever, I know we have to use like an online auction, don't we? When we get rid of stuff?
You don't have to, but it's,
Because
I mean, there's multiple ways you can do it.
Yeah.
We can do sealed bid, we can do a live auction here, or we use the municipal online auction.
right, the municipal.
My
Municipal is the one I was
understanding
thinking.
Years ago,
Yeah.
they used to gather surplus, have an auction, I think, out of this building, Mark? Did an auction out of this building like once a year, sold surplus. I've never attended it, I just heard stories about it.
Okay, I was just curious about that. And then my question also is I read, because there's a lot of grandparents and a lot of parents, and I just overheard parents discussing this weekend, and they were complaining that their child spends a lot of time on iRead. About how much time is spent on iRead?
So I can't really speak to that.
Okay,
Baldus?
thank you.
I can speak to that. So I need to go over there.
Would you mind?
Sorry.
I actually told him if this comes up, I will speak to
Okay.
I appreciate it.
So iReady there's a diagnostic that goes out at the beginning of the year. Every student completes that, and then it produces, they do it for math and ELA, and it is a learning loss tool, and so it will produce a lesson on, it's called My Path, for ELA and math, and at the middle school, we have one lesson for each a week. So they are to work through a lesson. The lessons take up to maybe 30 minutes. We provide a personalized learning time in the day, which is 30 minutes a day. So they have 5 PLTs in a week, and the expectation is during that time they can work on different things, homework projects, but during that time we allot them we allot them all of those days to do a 30-minute math lesson and a 30-minute ELA lesson. And so it supplements what they're doing in the classroom. So if I'm in a 7th grade math class, but I struggle with maybe a 5th grade math concept, they can continue to work in 7th grade, but then they can go back and that lesson will help remediate that work. And then if I'm in the same class and a student is functioning at like a 9th grade level, they can be working ahead and kind of doing some of the work there. So it's personalized. And so the teacher can be conferencing and talking with different students while they're working on their My Path. I will say, when I talk to parents who don't necessarily like that, sometimes I would tell the parents that their student isn't using their personalized learning time very well. Like they might be distracted or doing other things. So we have time within their day for them to do those lessons.
Right.
They don't always use their time well, which is why we have habits and everything I talked about in my presentation.
There, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so altogether, that would be
1 hour a week.
1 hour a week. They made it sound like it was 10 o'clock at night
They
till
might
they
be doing
were.
it at 10 o'clock.
Right,
but that's a
right,
habit.
because they're not
That's a
using
habit,
their
not
time.
a program issue.
Yes,
Yeah.
wisely. Yes, I totally get that now. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that explanation.
I have a question.
Yeah.
First, what is ELA?
English language arts.
Okay. And then my next question is, how long have we been using this?
3 years.
3 years. So what did we do prior to this?
Yeah. Good question, Chad. No, I'm just kidding. We had multiple tools. We had a program called IXL, which is still being used. And then, Study Island. That's what we were talking about. I couldn't remember the name. We had Study Island. Edmentum, I think, is the group that puts that out. That's ridiculously expensive. When we went through that, they've updated their software as well during COVID. That's when a lot of these learning loss programs came out. And when we looked at that, Study Island's prices were much higher than iReady at the time. And then IXL, the thing with IXL is, if I were a parent and I sit and talk to parents, IXL does not necessarily have a finite time per lesson, meaning I could be doing an IXL and I could be working across and maybe get to like 80% proficiency, but if I get a question wrong, it bumps me back, and then I could work up, and then it bumps me back again. So IXL, I've heard parents complain a little bit more about that.
Maybe they got it confused.
Maybe. But that's what we use. The issue with IXL is it doesn't have a benchmarking tool. And so I could assign everyone in my class the same lesson, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's meeting an individual need because they're struggling in this area while this student is struggling in this area. So iReady helps differentiate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. In the 3 years that you've used this program, have you gone back to see how effective this has been
Yes.
for students?
Yes.
Okay, are you able, do you have that information? Are you able to share that?
Right now,
Yeah.
I could, but I'm not sure how I could do that without student names.
Well, as in,
Can I answer that?
it's Dr. Ulmer.
Dr. Albert.
I didn't think he was here.
I,
Sneaky.
I recently shared a document with the board that iReady produced for us that showed us how many students were excelling in their individual paths and how well they were doing in each individual lesson. And I can reshare it again this week with the board. It was recently sent to us about the midway point of the school year to show us how well our students were doing K-8 in mastering individual concepts within the program.
Yeah, so thank you for speaking from wherever you are. I will say we benchmarks 3 times a year. So the student does the benchmark 3 times. We just did our mid-year benchmark. And at the middle school, again, I'm only going to speak for the middle school. At the middle school, we conference with our kids when it comes to our habits. And when we conference with them, the teachers conference with every student, they look at their iReady data. And so there are a typical year's worth growth goals, and then there's a stretch goal. And so iReady produces a student who has scored what they did. In a typical year, they should grow X number of points, and they have this goal, and students can see how they're doing when they do this benchmark. When we have our MTSS meetings that I talked about, when we talk, our students who we think might be at risk of not growing a year's worth in a school year, we can look at that, and so many of our students have met those goals. It has closed gaps that we have been seeing better than other programs we've seen. It's a tool then teachers can have one-on-one conferences with kids. We have kids who tell me, I don't like iReady. I don't want to do iReady. I've had students ask to meet with me. They send me an email. They have a petition of why we shouldn't do that. And then I actually talk through, well, this is the growth that we've seen. And the one student, it was a great conversation. He's like, so I actually should do this. Yes. So there's the conferencing feature that it also helps us have. So as a building principal, educational leader, I say it's a great tool, for sure.
There's a couple of analysis points I'd like to make to the board. If you look at the packet of information I provided you at the last meeting, the last 3 pages is the columnar pages that do the comparison year over year. First thing I want to point out to the board, if you look at the 22-23 actual versus budget, technology spent just over $450,000 of its $832,000 budget. I'll be honest with you, when I first started working on the budget, I looked at that and I said, oh crap, we have a major problem somewhere. I dug a little deeper and quickly realized that's how much we moved within the technology expenditures to grant-funded expenditures to their software programs. So that's a lot of the ESSER's money that we've talked about when we were closing out the audit. One last point, purpose of that difference was, you'll hear when I do a budget, talking about a budgetary reserve. Technology is the only other place that we have a budgetary contingency account outside of the overarching general fund, and I'll get more about the general fund piece when I present. But the technology's there, the budgetary reserve is there, and you'll see it's $142,000 in this year's budget, in the 22-23 budget, the 23-24 budget, and the 24-25 budget. That reserve is there. We are saving money for down the road when the technology department needs to replace our student iPads. So the point is that we don't want to have to lease them anymore. We're actually paying ourselves year over year that lease payment, so that then when about 5 years, Chad?
Correct, yeah.
When Chad comes to us and says, I need to buy new iPads for the district, we have the cash saved to purchase those devices. We have saved that over the past 5 years. So that's the purpose of that contingency account within the technology budget.
Any other questions for me? Thank you.
Now, Mr. Bittner will come up and give us a presentation on CTE Health Science.
Good evening, board members. It's a pleasure to be back in front of you tonight, giving you just a brief presentation and some not new information, but just calling your attention to some information based on the questions that you submitted to Dr. Omer and he provided to me. So I just want to just focus again on the why here, why these changes are being brought forth to you as proposals. It is the goal of the CTE programs, and it's one of the components of the mission of the Jersey Shore Area School District to meet the demands of the local workforce. The number one industry in our area is healthcare by size, and it's the number 2 in job growth in central Pennsylvania. And those statistics come from the Central Pennsylvania Workforce Development Board. We are required to use their data and their statistics to help us drive our decisions. We also desire to fulfill the interests of our student body. I surveyed the current sophomores, the 10th graders. There's 150 of them. 30 of them, 20% chose health sciences over all other career pathway options. We currently don't have a formal CTE program to fulfill that level of interest, hence these proposed changes are coming to you for consideration. And finally, it's our mission and goal to offer a wider variety of programs. We are currently on an improvement plan for our CTE programs for our lack of non-traditional enrollment. That indicator is a federal indicator, and its definition at the state level is males enrolled in traditionally female-based occupations and vice versa. Our current non-traditional enrollment stands at 2.17%. Our goal is to improve that by 10%. That was last year. We added a couple more students, but we still only have about 5 students enrolled in non-traditional CTE programs. Hopefully by offering a wider variety of programs, fulfilling their interests and meeting the demands of the workforce, we can meet our improvement plan goals. So one of the questions that was asked is about timeline. So what does it look like if the board takes action on March 11th moving forward? You do have in consideration tonight later in the agenda a retirement letter from the current construction trades instructor. If approved, we will be able to advertise anticipated openings by about April 1st if you're looking for a timeline. The Department of Education approval deadline for CTE program changes is May 31st. I'd obviously like to have them submitted prior to that. But essentially then, as soon as the students leave at the end of May and after graduation in June, we will be looking to make any type of program relocations or shop setup changes based on the proposals that are either approved or disapproved by the board. I would like to approve a new instructor by July, hopefully onboarding that new employee so that they can get into the space, they can get their head in the book, in the curriculum, we can start ordering supplies together instead of me ordering them for a program that I am not the subject matter expert of. And then coming up on August 22 already is the first day of school for the 2024-2025 school year. So I just wanted to provide a quick timeline. In the next slide, there were quite a few questions about how much this program will cost. So I did my best to project 3 years out. The costs get more difficult the farther out we project. But we're projecting a capacity of about 45 students for the first year of the new health and medical assisting program. The reason for that is we would not start a senior class because that's the end year of the program. So we would see lower student numbers in year 1. So my operating budget that I'm going to propose, I'm actually going to present my budget on the same night that you're going to take action on March 11th. For health and medical assisting, I'll propose about $11,650 for year 1. I'm actually able to reduce the budget in other areas because we're consolidating construction-based CTE programs to make space, to make a budget, and to open an instructor position for that. And I do have a slide to review that. So with those budget reductions from the consolidating other CTE programs to make room, if you will, for health and medical assisting, we'll realize a budget savings of about $6,400. The budget that I'm going to present on March 11th is a 4.22% decrease can see projected out, I'm able to realize some potential savings because inevitably, health and medical assisting has a relatively lower cost of operation than a construction trades program did. So we're going to see some annual cost savings there.
I have a question,
Yeah, thank you.
and I interrupt you here, but
No, not at all.
in other words, we have a retirement, which is a position that we're not going to refill. So you're basing that person's salary on these costs, on hiring a new person? Is that where you're getting your cost savings from?
Thank you for that question. These costs do not include instructor or benefit costs at all for the new instructor position. These are just operating costs for supplies and necessary operating expenses for the budgets. Even in the middle school and the technology budget that you were just presented, you don't have the costs of employees in there.
So this doesn't include the cost of an instructor at all, then?
None of the costs you were presented with tonight include instructor costs.
Okay.
Good question, thank you. Are there any others?
Let me back up to the first page there where you said, I understand where we're going with this. 20% of the grade 10, that's 30 students out of 150. If you hire a full-time instructor, if you have 30 kids you're going to teach, to me that's one class, 2 classes maybe per day. Are you going to hire a full-time? You think about hiring a full-time person to teach 1 or 2 classes a day? Or I know the second year you might have 3 or 4 classes.
Sure. So I provided you with a paper copy, if you look in your packet, of the proposed teacher schedule. The new health and medical assisting teacher will have a 75% schedule in year 1 and a 100% teaching load in years 2 and 3. That's PDE certification requirements.
Oh, okay.
Did that answer your question?
Kind of.
Okay.
So in other words, you're expecting to hire somebody at 75% of the salary for the first.
No, that's incorrect. I said so they are going to have a capacity of about 75% of a teaching load. If we go to this slide, you can see that. Their capacity is about 60 students, but I won't start 60 students the first year of the program. So essentially what I would recommend doing is taking the first year students and splitting that section into 2. So you have smaller, more intimate instruction and lab periods. Or we could potentially start seniors and just teach them with year 1 of the program. That is not my proposal, and that will increase the proposed costs. The supply costs that I have listed are for the student capacities at the top. Since most of the questions surround cost, I did want to present and educate the board a little bit about just how much funding actually does come in from external funding sources to support career and technical education. In the top left, you'll see the state career and technical education subsidy. That is a subsidy that is reimbursed to us for the extra cost that it is for a student to sit in a manufacturing class versus sitting in an English class, for example. The state this year currently is reimbursing us $1,004 per student, and that's in addition to the basic education subsidy that Jersey Shore already gets per pupil. I did want to note, I was able to discover an underreporting error to the state. The state currently has on file that we had 113 CTE students last year. When I arrived on July 1st, when I started looking through the data, I realized that number was very low. I worked with our new data coordinator, Trudy Wagner. We submitted a correction to that report. There were actually 146 CTE students last year. That should churn out another $50,000 in state CTE subsidy once that report is redistributed in May 2024. So I'm doing my best to fund these programs without coming to you asking for more budgetary funding. I'm looking at how do I make sure our programs are fully enrolled? How do I make sure we're accurately reporting our data and submitting corrections? It's one of the first things I did when I got on the job here. I also wanted to inform you that we do get federal and state grant monies to support these programs, and any possible expenditure that's submitted to me from the the CTE instructors, I first look, can I pay for it with a grant? Can I pay for it with some other funding source? A lot of times, the purchases are, grants are only eligible to purchase certain items. So I'm very explicit with my instructors about where we allocate funds to. The Jersey Shore Education Foundation, I met with them, they verbally committed at least $10,000 to support the new health and medical assisting program. They already provide a tremendous amount of supports, and so we're looking at about $300,000 in funds coming in. Again, they're not all grants, they're not all costs, a lot of them are reimbursable subsidies, but I just wanted to sort of show you the meat and potatoes of where my numbers are coming from and how hard I'm working to really reduce this budget by 4.22% that you're going to see on March 11th, despite the fact that we're actually able to offer more opportunities to our students.
So are these numbers year to year, the ones that you're showing?
No, those numbers change every single year. And in fact, that subsidy number, for example, when that subsidy is recalculated, the estimate we were supposed to get $158,643. When that is rerun, we should get over $200,000 kicked back to us.
But would that be then every year?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, it changes based on enrollment.
Okay.
Yeah, every year based on enrollment.
Okay.
So my goal is, once we have all these new programs, let's fill them so that reimbursable subsidy increases.
Mr. Bernard, I had a question, not a question, but a comment. I had somebody approach me, must have listened to the last meeting, knows what's going on a little bit, but they said, Harry, you know, I listen to the radio every day, and there's health people out there, UNPMC, they're always looking for people to enter their field. They're going to train these people. They want to hire these people. They're going to do training themselves and pay for the training. I talked to a PA the other day myself personally, and they had just hired somebody, and they actually trained that person, had no health experience whatsoever. So I guess my question to them was, and they asked me, you know, if these, like UPMC, Geisinger, and these people need these people in the health field, why don't they come into the school themselves maybe, provide one of their trainees, come in here and actually maybe take a period or do a class after school and something? Why put the cost on the school district when they're willing to pay for these people to get them trained? I mean, they had a good point.
That is a really good, and I think the direction I would go with that, and the reason I'm coming to you with these proposals is, I'm not asking you to increase the CTE budget. I'm not asking you to hire an additional CTE instructor. I'm just asking you to redistribute and reallocate your current investment in what my recommendation or proposal is, just a little more wisely. Jersey Shore Geisinger has come to us with their need, and how can we partner? And one of the ways I believe we can partner is I believe we do have the capability. I believe we do have the capacity to offer this health and medical assisting program by consolidating our construction-based programs to make room for that. And so that's the justification and rationale for the proposals that are coming forward.
So you have been approached by Jersey Shore Hospital maybe?
Yeah, sure. I'm so sorry. I'm
To
trying
partner
keep-
with them maybe in some aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 employees from Geisinger Jersey Shore currently sit on the Occupational Advisory Committee for the Health and Medical Assisting Program. They voted on and approved and wrote the proposal that you have sitting in front of you.
I have a question. For the variety part of the program, what you're saying is that statistically we have programs we provide are more boys. We have more boys than girls.
Oh, we absolutely
Is
do.
that a problem for CTE?
Not necessarily, as long as we're making sure we provide equal opportunity, access, and education for all. As long as we're not limiting exposure or
Right.
access to anything, it is what it is.
Because nursing's different. I mean, it's different now because now it's gender neutral.
Absolutely.
And I do know that I did speak to the president of the Williamsport Board about their CTE program for nursing in their school district. And it's one that you can build on. It's not just specifically like we could even start small, like EMT, and build ourselves up to a bigger nursing program, like so we don't have to. It's not a big dump of money at one time, but also, I mean, the Lori told me that she personally knew a friend of theirs that their daughter is taking the CTE program to their introduction to, because she wants to be a doctor. And their program has it, so that's not something that Geisinger's gonna provide you. And not only that, the quality that comes out of their CTE program is not like the 4-week program you get in a nursing home. You get a more quality student, a better job opportunity, and you move up quicker in your position. So it's a better opportunity for our students, and there's so many benefits from it. But not only that, I don't know, Dr. Ulmer, you would probably be able to explain it better. Isn't somebody in the Department of Education actually coming to Lycoming County to visit the CTE program in Williamsport?
Yes, the secretary.
Yeah, just to, I got cut off a little bit.
Secretary of Ed.
Yeah, is actually coming to look at their program, and I think it's, it's Williamsport. We can look at but their nursing program is the only one I asked specifically about, and it's not just, a CT, CNT. Oh no, but I'm not CNT.
PCT.
PCT, patient
Yeah,
transportation.
it's not just that. I mean, there's even like EMT. So there's all kinds of programs that are pretty impressive. But it's the quality, like your question about, why would we provide it when you can just go to a hospital or another facility? Because the quality is different. The 4 weeks to 6 weeks program is not the same as the hours that these students are going to be putting in. I think that's the biggest quality. And for us we produce, I think, a really good quality student in the workforce, because I know one of the other companies is, it's a machining company on Reach Road. Anyways, they love when they get a student from Jersey Shore, because we provide a really excellent student. They know what they're getting. They already, have it wrapped around their head of what they're going to get when they have a CTE program student coming from, our school district. That's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate that, thank you. I had one more slide for clarity, and then I'll wrap up. And it was just solidify the understanding that in order to create an instructor position, a program budget, and a teaching and learning space for the health and medical assisting program, we do need to also approve the proposal to merge the construction-based CTE programs. The proposal that we are proposing, keeping building property maintenance 460401 open and merging into that non-duplicated tasks from our current construction trades program 469999, which is proposed to close. So thank you for the time. If there are any additional questions, please let me know. I know Dr. Rosenbach and Dr. Ulmer will take any of your questions via email, and they can forward them directly to me. Thank you very much.
Now, your construction trade,
Oh,
your
yes.
intention is to allow those people that would be students, that would be seniors, to finish
That's correct.
under
Yeah.
the construction trade?
Yes,
Okay.
you have proposed copies of the building and property maintenance instructor who will stay on board. They will finish the seniors for both programs next year, as well as start new groups for building property maintenance.
So I had a question for you. I heard that you had said, which makes total sense, about seniors not signing up, obviously, for, Is your vision, if this were to be approved, is your vision for a possible 9th grade student, and then move on to the next year? But then your 11th and 12th grade, is that where you look to possibly expand things for that particular student? How far could someone go, in your opinion, to come out with even more than just 1 or 2 certifications? Could it be done?
Absolutely, it can be. And the case study that I'll use is Sam Knapp, the Jersey Shore student who attends Keystone Central for their health and medical assisting program. Keystone CTC only offers the PCT certification with their health and medical assisting, which is exactly what we want to replicate. However, due to co-op experiences and being able to intern outside of the classroom, Sam was able to earn CNA, and she's also working on EMT. And that was all done within 3 years. It was a 3-year program. We're planning on doing that in 2.
Which is what I saw. So is there anything outside of those certifications that you could provide a student, even beyond that?
So we, to answer your question honestly, because we're retrofitting a space and because of capacity and cost limitations, we aren't going to be able to offer CNA right off the bat. CNA is a very rigorous certification process with clinical hours that are required to be documented. From what has been shared with me, you almost need a second adult just to manage the paperwork and the documentation. So my recommendation would be that I could use federal grant money to pay for students to get that certification, and they could essentially get that from an external provider. We could just do it through capstone co-op time. It's sort of built into an exterior internship.
So it is possible.
Absolutely, it's possible. And I did want to answer your 9th grade question. We are planning on, in year 1 of the program, offering 9th grade exploratory electives, 10th grade introductory classes, as well as the full first year of the program. And that'll all happen in year 1.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
I have one additional question for you. This should be pretty easy.
Yeah, thank you so much for speaking up.
You had mentioned that you, or somebody from Geisinger, Jersey Shore actually wrote part of this, or whatever, is...
Well, we collaborated together on it, and
Yeah,
it was approved by the group.
Okay, is UPMC involved at all in any of this, or evangelical, or...
Yeah, so we are still working on building that committee. We currently have a group of 10 stakeholders together. We're waiting for the proposal to be approved because it's a rather large time requirement, meaning the amount of time that we're asking for our stakeholders to input. We want to make sure that we have a commitment from the board before we expand that. But the plan is, yes, to grow that committee.
Okay, because if UPMC, vest as much as Geisinger, I'd like to see what are the hospitals going to do for the program if they're going to benefit from our program, because like Harry was talking about, the hospitals pay for the PCT certifications and they'll hire entry level. I did a little research. And then I found out from UPMC that they specifically train PCTs according to what department that they work. So it's not just a PCT cert, it's a specified PCT certification. So I don't know what Geisinger does, but what I'd like to see is them get on board and try to streamline this and make it so that it's applicable, that the student can actually, and will they honor it? Will they honor that certification when they come to work at their facility? Because that's the goal, to get the student ready to go into the workforce, and I'd like to see that.
I really like that, ensuring that the credential we're granting has value, but then value can be added to that by the next step in the process.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bider.
Just wanted to take a few minutes and ask any of the board members if what you heard tonight, seeing the questions that you had already submitted, answered over the course of the past 2 weeks, anything the board would like to discuss currently at this time concerning this presentation. I just wanted to remind everyone, just in case, in the last update, I had a question for Mr. Enders, and he had responded and labeled it under my name. I don't know if everyone actually saw the question, though. My question was specifically the cost of hiring a teacher, how that was going to impact the budget, and what % overall of the budget would that be. And I just wanted to ask if everyone had actually seen that and had any questions on it, if you understood it.
I did not.
You do not? Okay, so, eliminating the CTE position through retirement would actually save $122,000, which equates to 0.25% of the budget. Hiring on a Master's 1 teacher with individual health insurance, that would equate to $77,000, which percent of the budget is 0.16% of the overall budget is how that is impacted. So I personally just wanted to let the board know. I asked that specific question because I know there's always going to be a time to save money and a time to spend. But I think from this perspective and how I see this personally is this isn't about investing in a budget. This is about investing in our community of children, of young adults, and the future of who they're going to become and the impact they're going to have, and not just locally. So I just wanted to make that statement because a 0.16% of the overall budget, I think is very doable.
I just have a comment to that, please.
Absolutely.
I agree, because I worked it out myself before. And I'm basing that on a $40 million budget. But if you take that same scenario and you take a $100,000 or $122,000 position off of this year's budget, so say this year's deficit is 1.5 million, I'm talking about this year's deficit, not the overall budget. That relates to almost a 7% cut in the budget compared to 0.25. You compare it to the 40 million. So it's comparing, different way of comparing numbers. Right, your numbers are right. But like I say, if you compare it to the budget for this year, the deficit, and again, I'm guessing at a 1.5 million deficit, it may be higher, maybe lower. But if you take that 100,000 off of that, you're looking at 6 or 7%. Big difference. All depends on how you compare the numbers.
I just want to say I agree. I agree this is something that we can't afford not to do. That's all.
If I could, Mrs. Speaker, one of the things that I was asked if Mr. Bittner and I talked about is, in order to apply for grants from the Department of Ed, one of the check marks or one of the questions we have to answer is this program approved and is it in operation? We cannot apply for grants through CTE at the Department of Ed for this program yet until it's been board approved.
Yep.
So until it's established, we cannot go after those funds.
Thank you, Dr. Almer, for making that clear.
I have a question about retrofitting the room to serve its purpose as the nursing program. How is that going to be done? Who is doing it?
I'm so happy you asked that because I had a paper here that got covered up that I was supposed to read that and I never did. Three of you asked a question about what cost would it be to renovate that space. So I consulted with Chad Craig and I consulted with Mark Wall and said, we can do that for about $3,000. And I would like to transfer, once we can make it work for this year with about $3,000. Ultimately, we need to hire an instructor. We need to talk to the subject matter expert about what they need to see in that classroom. We could potentially put a drop ceiling in there, but that's a much larger project that I could come to you with a proposal with later. I do want to request that if these proposals are approved, I do have a residual budget transfer request that I'll submit to Mr. Enders to help pay for that renovation cost. I'm looking at about $3,000 to $5,000 to put the technology we need in that space for health and medical assisting, to do some painting, some flooring upgrades, as well as to do some just basic repairs to clean up that space to get it ready. Thank you for that question.
Now, on the other end of the transfer, again, how much will it cost to retrofit those 2 CT rooms.
You got it.
So we're looking at the whole picture here.
Yeah, I don't have a cost to renovate any of the construction spaces. Essentially, what we're doing is we're transferring a building and property maintenance program into an industry standard shop. It is currently not in an industry standard shop space, so that's kind of a win-win for that. We don't have a cost associated for that other than the time and labor to get that equipment and supplies moved over to the new space.
No, just to follow up on that, if, I know it wasn't in the facility study, because this is something new, but if this does take place, I'm gonna ask Mr. Wall if he would be able to come up with a price on that, or would we have to go outside? I'm certainly sure that you'd be able to come up with a price on retrofitting that building, taking out the dust collection system and fitting it up without going to some outside entity.
Yeah, on engineering, they already looked at the dust collection system upgrade for the new shop area for them. I think we're pretty sure we're supposed to have the quote for that this week to bring back to capital projects to review. When it was going to be in agreements, actually the CT now, I think the price was like $250,000. Without, as we explained, their capital project, there was quite a bit of work that needed to be done for that. So much cheaper down where it is C1.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you. All right, we will now have courtesy of the floor. This will be for public comment on the agenda items. First up, I have Shelley Helm. Could you please state your name and address, and
Shelley
you will
Helm,
have 3
Pine Township.
minutes.
I think it's wonderful that we have 156 junior and senior high school students that are participating in the career and technical education classes that we have. That's 46%. So anyways, I was reviewing policy 115, career and technical education in the district. I have 2 questions. They'll come in here. It reads that the superintendent or designee, I would suspect that's our CTE administrator, are to develop programs geared towards local, national, and international employment demands, as well as the needs and interest of the students. There's enough background information Mr. Bittner has brought forward, and it's all over in the news, for the offering. However, my question is, was there a survey sent out to the students and parents regarding interest or thoughts on conducting a freshman informational career night where the parents and child come and listen to counselors, professionals in the field, former students, anything like that? Also, the policy reads that students can transfer to out-of-district career and technical programs if they aren't offered in the district. Well, I read the footnote. Act 14, which is under provision right now. Section 1847, attendance of pupils for non-participating districts on obtaining the consent of the area career and technical board operating an area career and technical school or technical institute, and with or without the consent of the board of school directors of that district in which the pupils reside. Any pupil residing in a non-participating district may attend the area career and technical school or technical institute. The school district in which the pupil resides shall be charged for each pupil attending the area career and technology school or technical institute an amount equal to the total approving budget for current expenses, debt service, and capital outlay divided by the number of pupils enrolled in that school. So my question is this. We don't accept this into our curriculum. how much is it gonna cost you? Because you really need to go in and read footnote 11. I already knew that from doing my curriculum degree a long time ago. But anyways, we've seen the financial problems associated with school choice, you know, pilfering out money. Sugar Valley, well, we had one tonight. It's pretty expensive. So if we don't do this, what will the cost look like in the future for this district when we have to pay other districts for this type of curriculum? Just some things I wanted to bring up because it seems like this is more about a funding issue than a curriculum problem. I think our students deserve this. 46% of our junior and senior high schoolers use this. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Helm. Next is Bob Pryor. Could you please state your name and address?
Bob Pryor, Mifflin Township.
You'll have 3 minutes.
Did the board members receive my email I sent out to you today around 3:39 in the afternoon? Everybody get that email? Okay, I'll read it. That way everybody can hear it. Dear board, after reviewing tonight's agenda, I noticed some probable issues on the subject proposed high school curriculum. Under biology on pages 40, 41, and 43, evolution is mentioned as part of the instructions. What concerns me is there is no mention of intelligent design or creationism. There needs to be a comparison so students can decide what is more accurate. Also, under U.S. history on pages 46 and 47 of that curriculum, there needs to be more on the American Revolution presented so students are aware of how our country began and who the founding fathers were, how much they sacrificed. You know what I mean? They sacrificed everything almost. To add more, there is no mention of capitalism and its benefits versus progressivism, communism, liberalization, and all that. When I see more concentrations on subjects that are hurting America rather than helping, I start thinking about indoctrination. And I know where this comes from. It comes from the National Education Association, from the State Education Association. And the president of the National said they're going to continue pushing this stuff no matter what we think. This curriculum either needs tabled for now or voted down until more discussion takes place on this. I don't want my grandchildren being taught about evolution. Thanks for your consideration on this concern. But I just have a quick question before I leave. Think about it. What merit is there in teaching evolution? What merit? I don't see any merit. I just see kids being confused. And we've got to remember the first book used in education in this country was the Holy Bible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. All right. Next, we will move on to personnel. Action to approve letters A through J. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second.
Are there any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Moving on to curriculum and instruction. Items to approve. A through C. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say aye. Motion passes. There's nothing under buildings and grounds or finance. Moving on to miscellaneous. Items to approve. The following policies under letter A. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I know, right? Any questions or concerns? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Anything under old business that this board would like to discuss?
It's not really old business, but I would like to thank Mrs. Robinson and Mr. Jarrett for their years of service here at the district.
Any other business?
I do. I wrote this down, and it was for earlier in the meeting, but Senator Jean Yaw's office received $3.5 million in funding for like Cumming and Sullivan County. And Penn College, Michael J. Reed, said that additionally that they are available to provide valuable scholarship assistance to veterans and first responders for scholarships for, I think it's their, I'm not sure if it's like their EMT services, but that's basic, is that correct? Anyways, I thought, looking up all the information that we were looking up for our own program, and that was our Mr. Reed, that we thought I would just mention that there's funding and it's available, and if people didn't see it in the paper, if they missed it, that Penn College is providing some of that funding, and he says it's a great scholarship and it's substantial. So kind of the same category, same avenue if people are looking at EMT and they're not going to make, because they're seniors. Do you know what I mean? Okay, that's all.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, next we will have courtesy of the floor. If you would like to address the board, you can come forward. Just state your name and address, please, and you will have 3 minutes.
Mrs. President, before I start, can I hand literature to the board?
Absolutely. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Peters Cumming Township. Last year, I had the privilege of assisting one of our board members in their campaign. We interacted with scores of Region 1 residents. Top 3 concerns: lower taxes, the future of Saladysburg School, and the Marxist indoctrination of their children. Moving forward, I want to be clear. I respect and admire Dr. Ulmer for his expertise, candor, and points of view, and believe our children are secure in the hands of him and this board. However, something took place last week that is of grave concern to me. 7th and 8th grade field trip to the Community Arts Center to watch Mad Rivers Keep on Marching. I'm not here to critique the play because I didn't see it. Its focus was Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1963 March in Washington. I believe it is vital that our children learn this part of our history, which helped bring about the 1964 Civil Rights Act, guaranteeing long overdue freedoms. However, when I researched the play, I located the teacher guide, which was to be provided to our 7th and 8th grade teachers. It became clear that the Mad River Group is focused on indoctrination, recruiting our students to become social justice activists, and only for causes that the liberal left, and never conservative causes, like radical environmentalism, LGBTQ, transgender, BLM, anti-police movements, climate change, and Marxism in general. Marxists target the impressionable minds of children. Their strategy is to convince them that their parents' generation has left them a nation of outdated and broken ideas and a repressive, heavy-handed government, both of which must be overthrown. Marxists summarize their strategy into their two favorite buzzwords, social justice. I was even more alarmed when I read the phrase, "keep on marching," as a call to action of today's young people. It is an anthem to share with your peer travelers on the road to social justice, and we can all be social justice activists. I was then horrified when they quoted activists who are, quote, making a difference in the world. Let me read some. Greta Thunberg, leftist climate change activist whose name most recently was removed from the school books in Israel for her pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas support. Shukti Kwai Martinez, leftist climate change and social justice training activist. Angela Davis, American Marxist, communist, and political activist, two-time Communist Party's candidate for the United States Vice President and member of the Los Angeles Black Panthers. The three founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, known for violent defund the police emphasis, LGBTQ rights, and transgender movement. The leftist list goes on. No Charlie Kirk, no Ben Shapiro, no Riley Gaines, no conservative whatsoever. I want to believe that those in our district who made the decision to entrust the minds of our students and our scant tax dollars to an organization who supports such rebellious and destructive ideas was simply an oversight and not a purposeful act. Our residents, in closing, our residents have not entrusted this district with our children to train them in leftist calls of action to become social activists. They want them to become educated, period. Teaching leftist social justice ideology is not the role of our schools. My request is that such an event never be repeated, and the district now give equal time to a conservative speaker with a differing point of view who can address these students in our auditorium. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Prior Midland Township. I don't know whether it does any good to come up here and try to speak some sense into people. After hearing Mr. Peters, you already voted the curriculum in. That's why I was concerned. I mentioned some of the things are on the curriculum, and you approve it. I don't understand it. Like I said, when you're on the board and then when you're off, you're nothing but a dog jerk. Get right down to it. But as far as the presentation tonight on the middle school technology, the budget presentation, you need backup. Keep in mind, if an emergency or an internal threat emerges, you should have hard copies with directions on what to do just in case the computer system breaks down or is put down. It's just something to consider. Don't rely on technology all the time, especially if there's an emergency like a active shooter or something. Because if that goes down, and it can go down very easily if people know what they're doing, you got to have backup.
also, I just got a question for Mr. Enders, if it's okay? Madam Chairman?
Possibly. You can ask
Well,
it.
I just want to know, usually the pie that we see, where our cost is divided up, in the past, salaries and benefits were around 70%. That's usually what it's been. With this new current contract that I, again, felt was shoved down our throats, what percentage of the pie does that represent now? Anybody have any idea? Certainly isn't 70%.
What I can tell you, Mr. Pryor, is I'll be redoing that chart that you're referencing for the budget presentation in April. The biggest thing right now, why I couldn't give you that number, is because retirement deadline is not till Thursday.
I understand.
And I also have a meeting planned, scheduled with Dr. Ulmer Monday morning to review all the retirements and determine what we will be doing with that. So I plan on updating that and providing that to the full board and to the community.
All right. Oh, by the way, you do a great job, Mr. Enders.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor.
Shelley Helm, Pine Township. Thank God for our First Amendment rights. Thank God some of us use them properly and correctly. Evolution. I hate to explain it. Luann already left. State standard. That's how you're taught. Science education, get one. And then you can sit up here and discuss it. Because we're not taught creationism as to teach, microbiology, anything like that. So, like I said, thank God for our First Amendment rights.
Thank you, Mrs. Helm.
Hello, Bob Fox from beautiful Pine Creek Township. I love Pine Creek. I just wanted to comment on the health sciences curriculum that was presented tonight. I think it was an excellent presentation. All of the presentations tonight were great. I know we had this before us before, and brought up by a school board member that the budget was $2.2 million deficit at the time that it was brought to us. I don't think that end of the year audit was ever a $2.2 million deficit. I don't think we can put a price tag on this, as was mentioned earlier. I think it's not only beneficial to the students in our buildings, but also to the community. Look around, none of us are getting any younger. We're all going to be going to the doctors more, and there are less and less people that are going into this. There's less and less people going in, and they need more. And I look at this as when they go into the health field, it's like a ladder. You can either start on the ground and step up on that first rung when you try to go get a job at one of these hospitals, or we can provide our students with a couple rungs up compared to students from other places. And I think it's worth any amount of tax increase that it could cost me. I wouldn't mind paying for that. I look at the kids that are next door, that live next door to me. I no longer have kids that go to school here. I'll probably never have another grandchild or anything come through school here, but I consider it a privilege and an honor to pay my taxes and provide for the education for all the students. I think sometimes we lose that responsibility that we had and that our parents and grandparents had for us to be educated in this great school district that we have here. We should be proud of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Hi, I'm Sharon Sullivan from Basters Township, and I have to agree with Bob Fox. This is an awesome school district. I graduated from here. Bob Fox was instrumental in getting my son through here, and Mary Thomas, Dennis Sullivan. So my question is, and I'm trying to find out why Jersey Shore Elementary does not have a Grandparents' Day. Avis does, Salisbury does, I've talked to several board members. One was going to text Dr. Ulmer and get back with me, and another one said they didn't know, which I'm fine with the I don't know answers. I've talked to a couple PO members, and the only thing, half answer I got is they think maybe there's too many students in the elementary school, which doesn't make sense because Avis, Salisbury, Jersey Shore, I realize they're all different, there are different numbers in the schools. So I'm trying to find out if one of the PTO members said that they were going to revisit having the grandparents' day at Jersey Shore Elementary, and I'm just trying to find out if anybody knows why they don't have a grandparents' day. I'm speaking on behalf of some of my friends as well. They're not able to be here tonight, but we would like to see a grandparents' day implemented at the Jersey Shore Elementary School. And if it's the fact that you need volunteers or help, or I know you need your clearances and TB tests and all that, which is not a deal for some of us, we would be willing to offer to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Anyone else? All right. We're going to adjourn the meeting.